The show is the drawn word. My name is Chris Irving, and the place is New York City. Our guest tonight has appeared on such television shows as MASH and Saturday Night Live. He even had a role in the cult classic film, The Warriors. And yes, I am talking about a comic book writer, Larry Hama, creator of G.I. Joe, which in itself is an American institution. Stick around. We'll be with you soon. Good evening. I'm here with Larry Hama, creator of G.I. Joe, comic book writer, actor, penciler, storyboard artist, rock and roller. Am I forgetting anything, Larry?
No.
Okay. General jack of all trades.
I forget most of them, so.
No. So Larry, there's a movie coming out based off one of your, well, actually your most significant comic book, G.I. Joe. It's the second film, Retaliation. So I absolutely have to ask you, how did your involvement with G.I. Joe come about?
How did it come about? Well, Hasbro decided to, they were going to roll out a new version of G.I. Joe. The old version had been these 12-inch figures, and they were sort of made impractical by the massive rise of petroleum prices, and plastic just became too precious, and so they were going to be downsized to these 3 3/4 inch. Is that the right?
Yeah, the Star Wars size.
Yeah, the Star Wars size, and they were going to be different characters rather than the single generic figure. So they figured they wanted to have a licensed comic, so they came to Marvel, and you have to understand that at the time, toy licensed books were the bottom of the barrel as far as the creators were concerned, because the company had to pay a licensing fee that came off the top. So they couldn't afford to pay the guys who had the higher rates. So they were just asking, they were just using whoever they could get. And nobody wanted to do it.
So
apparently they came down, they asked all the freelancers, and everybody turned it down, and they came down the editorial row asking all the editors and other people in the office who wrote, and everybody turned it down. I was the last office that they got to, and if it had been Barbie, I would have taken Barbie, but because I've been trying to get writing work and nobody would give me any writing work. So,
no, I'm really curious what your take on Barbie would have been.
I would have really liked to have done it. Actually. It's not like I had a burning interest to do this genre, because I'm basically a Bigfoot funny animal guy. I got into the business because I thought I was going to be able to do stuff like Uncle Scrooge, and at that time there was no market for that stuff, so I had to do what I had to do to make a living.
And now Hasbro they came to Marvel with the figure designs, correct?
Yeah, they had. They didn't even have the sculpts yet at that point. They had black and white line drawings. I think they were done by Ron Rudat, and there would be a figure, and above the figure it would say something like infantry, or machine gunner, or commando, and that was it. And that was all the information they had. And yeah, so I had to just sort of take it right from there. You know, luckily I had developed something for Marvel the year before that just hadn't flown, called Fury Force, which is about a special operations group, and they had like a secret headquarters and underneath a chaplain's assistant motor pool in Staten Island, and they had sort of the same sort of little cast of characters, because you know if you put together something like that from scratch, and it's a military special operations group. Okay, you're going to have a machine gunner, you're going to have a commando, you're going to have like, the girl with the throwing knife or something,
Emma Peel.
Yeah, so it wasn't. Yeah, so it wasn't. A big stretch.
How was G.I. Joe written? Because you've talked about this before, and I love hearing about it. Did you plan in advance with Hasbro, or did it go from issue to issue?
It went from page to page, basically. I never know what happens on the next page of anything. And I hadn't really written a monthly book before, and I remember really distinctly writing, finishing the script for the first issue, and then thinking to myself, man, because I've blown my wad here. I have no idea what to do next. And I had that same recurrent feeling every issue.
Wow.
After that, for 155 issues.
Yeah, plus special missions,
yeah,
which
plus special
ran for a while.
missions and annuals and whatever. I could never. So I was never able to tell them, or give them a preview and say, well, this is what happens next, or whatever. That's why there's never, coming next issue, because nobody knew. And I literally, to this day, have no idea what happens on page 5 until I get to page 5.
So, and you picked up the old numbering a couple of years ago with number 155.5.
Yeah.
And it's still running with IDW Comics, or IDW Publishing. So they still let you, your editor lets you just go from issue to issue with it.
Well, they don't have a choice. I mean, when I did a 4-issue series for Devil's Due, where they insisted that I actually tell them what goes on for all 4 issues, and I stressed about it, and I finally did it, but I was not happy with it. Because it just seems all sort of predictable to me. That if I know what the ending is, that you're sort of forced to work towards that ending. And if you know precisely what the ending is, you tend to march your characters, in whatever choreography it takes to get them to that ending. And lots of times you end up sacrificing the integrity of the characters to get them to do that. Whereas, when my sort of stumbling in the dark technique, is more about sort of Stanislavskian acting. I try to really get the characters up on their feet as realistically as possible, and then I get them into a scene, and they play it out themselves. If I try to control that to a degree, then it just becomes choreography. I was never interested in choreography. I'm more interested in the motivation of the characters and the ethical and moral strengths of the characters or weaknesses. I think that's what's what's interesting. I think that's what people come back to see. Not, you know, you don't come back every month for something because you're saying, oh, I love the beauty of that plot. You know? That plot really made sense. You know, you know, I really love that. You know, nobody says that. You know, you go, well, you know, I like that character. I want to come back and find out, you know, what happens to that character. And I find that true with, you know, the other types of media that I like. You know, I really don't care about the plot and the choreography. So I like Downton Abbey. You know, it's like, I really like where all those characters are coming from and where they're going. That's it.
So